The 9th century BCE was defined by the immense physical distances between major population centers, creating a natural bottleneck for any state attempting to exert influence beyond its home borders. Conquering a territory requires a temporary, concentrated expenditure of violence and caloric energy. It is a burst of activity with a clear start and endpoint. Maintaining that territory introduces a constant resource bleed. Every mile of distance from the capital increases the energy required to project authority. To prevent rebellion, a state must keep standing armies stationed in every newly conquered province, men who consume grain while producing nothing. When the cost of these garrisons exceed provincial tax revenue, the empire reaches a breaking point, depleting state reserves faster than they replenish. Ancient military technology, no matter how refined, was always subject to the absolute limits imposed by geography and the speed of grain transport. The primary obstacle to long-term stability was the logistical friction of the garrison. Controlling a region required more energy than the region itself could provide back to the central state. The Neo-Assyrian military command centralized its operations in administrative hubs like Assur and Nineveh. These administrators functioned as systems engineers, confronting a collapse in their logistical supply chain. They recognized that traditional physical force had a hard limit based on the availability of manpower and transport. To maintain growth, the administration decoupled power projection from physical troop presence. They utilized the psychological threat of the army to perform the labor of the actual army. This strategy shifted the burden of imperial control from expensive permanent military garrisons to targeted psychological operations. Engineering this psychological substitution allowed the Neo-Assyrian state to sustain its expansion without exhausting its physical resources. The Assyrians utilized specific methods of high-visibility violence, including mass flayings and public impalements. These acts were bureaucratic tools used to maintain imperial control. This violence functioned as a calculated equation. Maximum force was concentrated into a single rebellious city, creating a spectacle that resonated across the surrounding region. Investing in a single high-intensity atrocity reduced the need to fight smaller, expensive battles in every neighboring district. The administration maintained a precise accounting of these events, recording the destruction of cities in the same way they recorded grain harvests. Severed heads and blinded prisoners were logged as data points, serving as an audit of the state's ability to enforce its will. This approach provided a clear return on investment. The public destruction of one rebel king forced 10 neighboring rulers to submit and pay tribute, achieving regional control at a fraction of the cost of a full invasion. Atrocity was a communication strategy designed to broadcast a high-definition signal of terror across the empire. Psychological warfare requires a permanent medium to broadcast its threat to visiting diplomats and local governors. Massive gypsum wall reliefs lining the palaces of Nineveh functioned as the interface for state-sponsored terror. The reliefs depict the Assyrian infantry as standardized and expressionless, conveying the image of a mechanical, unstoppable force. In contrast, the enemies are rendered in chaotic, disorganized geometry to emphasize their vulnerability. These clinical depictions of execution served as a physical warning to foreign emissaries, providing proof of the state's capacity for violence. The meticulously patterned terrain behind the figures signals the state's organized dominance over the landscape, treating the environment as a conquered asset. These reliefs allowed the Assyrians to maintain order through architecture, reducing the need for physical garrisons in the heart of the empire. Psychological warfare has a specific vulnerability. The effectiveness of a threat decreases as the distance from the source increases. A threat of violence is only effective if it reaches its destination faster than the enemy's willingness to rebel. The Assyrians built a high-speed state communication network known as the kalliu to maintain this strategic velocity. This required cutting paved stone roads through rugged mountains and hostile environments, creating a predictable path for state intelligence. Standardized relay outposts placed every few miles allowed for the rapid, seamless transfers of cuneiform tablets and fresh horses. State messengers rode day and night without interruption, allowing the administration to react to distant ants before local rumors could spread. This logistical infrastructure allowed the Assyrian administration to outpace the organization of rival states. Consider a rebellion attempting to organize on the empire's periphery. A warning signal travels along the kalliu network back to Nineveh. This intelligence allows immediate deployment of the standing army. Moving along maintained roads, it intercepts the rebellion before rebels can militarize the population. Physical speed ensures that the violence depicted in the palace reliefs is delivered swiftly to any point of resistance. The empire was sustained through the integration of iron weaponry, a professional military, and high-speed communication. By linking a data network to psychological dominance, the Neo-Assyrian Empire stabilized the energy costs of maintaining a continent-spanning state.